have to break from school between Tuna and Bole, and Bole was where the commercial bank was. So they had to drive, now it doesn't look like much, but this was just a 60-kilometer distance. But because of that, people had to wake up at 3 a.m. to catch the bus to be able to make it, just to be able to get in before the door closed, because they had a certain capacity that the bank could manage. And when they got that capacity, then they will just close the door, and it means that you'll not be able to get your salary. Just had an off. We ended up on trees looking for shano tree fruits and a whole bunch of stuff. We're always, looking for berries and so on and so forth. But what changed? The banking environment changed. The core infrastructure on which banking ran basically had to be adapted in order for that whole process to work. So, for example, we had the central station that also drove like the capacity of banks to be able to process beyond, back in the day, banks closed at 2 p.m., sometimes even at 12. I'm dating myself here. But a lot of some of the benefits that we gain when we adapt to innovation. So let me begin by expressing my deep appreciation to the organizers. I have a slide. Okay, thank you. Let me begin by expressing my deep appreciation to the organizers of to deliver this public lecture. It is an honor to join our civil service in shaping Ghana's future. The theme for this year's celebration, adults and the civil service in contemporary Ghana, is both timely and necessary. We are living through a global technology transition. Automation is changing how work is done. Artificial intelligence is redefining how the governments engage with citizens. These forces are not distant possibilities. They are already reshaping how we live, how we govern, and how we can access government services using a mobile phone, a procurement officer, automated alerts for compliance, a district health officer in Jessica generated forecasts for medical supplies. The change is here and accelerating. This is the Ghanaian civil service ready. This lecture is therefore not just about technology, it's about transformation. It is about how we reimagine the core of public service reimagine the core of public service in the digital service. It is about it is about building a civil service that is efficient, inclusive, data smart, and citizen-centric. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk us through how automation, AI, e-governance are transforming public administration policy, what this means for Ghana's civil service. And this is something that we have to be minded by. There's something called echo chambers, and that happens when you have people of just similar thoughts that being rejected within just that circle. So you almost become very illiterate to everything else that's happening outside of your environment. So they keep reinforcing your own biases, the social norms that exist there, and basically leaving everybody out. So the risks we must manage and workforce displacement. And finally, a proposed agenda for reform, readiness, and renewed leadership in the face of these technological shifts. Let me be clear, it is not a call for transformation where technology serves the people, empowers it. Let us together take an honest look at where we stand and where we must go. E-governance. Ladies and gentlemen, as we navigate this era of digital transformation, it is important that we demystify the terms that often dominate the headlines. So automation, artificial intelligence, and e-governance. These are not just across the globe. And increasingly right here in Ghana. Let me begin with a simple framing repetitive task. It is what happens when we use machines or software to perform routine processes without a need for constant human intervention. So think about how automated payroll systems files moving from one officer to another. I started with my example of when we were young children, what used to transfer. The reason why a lot, so banks were not speaking to each other. If you were within the commercial bank network, you just stayed within there. And there was no automated ways to maybe mostly in the other regions. And so that is one of the things that automation has basically improved upon. Because we automated the processes, things can become more faster and more streamlined. So let's go to the next comment. The next AI goes a step further. It refers to machines performing tasks that typically require humans making predictions, recognizing speech or images, or even making recommendations. Imagine AI algorithms that detect fraud in financial transactions, or help plan traffic flows in congested cities. And then let's go to, then there is e-governance. The use of digital tools and platforms to deliver government online portals for applying for permits, filing taxes, accessing social services, or simply getting real-time information from government institutions. It's responsive. Now, these steps are not just underlying them with remarkable results. So let me provide some examples here. So let me highlight a few. So in the countries in the world, 99% of services are available. Citizens can start a business, access healthcare, file their taxes, and even vote electronically. That system is changed. And just right here in Rwanda, which is closer to home, the government has implemented the Rainbow platform, a digital gateway through which citizens can access over 100 public services, from rental licenses to accessing social service programs. The entire process can be done from a phone or a computer. Then you look at the United Kingdom, AI is used to analyze outcomes and allocating resources. So just think about if you went to a hospital and each hospital was working efficiently, a patient is going to the hospital, they're already allocating to find out, okay, how many beds are available in real time that you are bringing on. And then you can reallocate patients to hospitals that are probably not very busy. You know, you can allocate people to specialists. So once you have seen a doctor, you know, okay, who is available next. You can be able to just predict move to. So these examples show us what is possible when government commit to using technology for public good. So now I come to Ghana Service Examples, and now we are coming to Ghana Civil Service in focus. Ladies and gentlemen, having explored the global trends, it is only right that we now turn our attention homeward, the Ghana Civil Service. This is the machinery that drives policy implementation, and Doc spoke elaborately about how the civil service is the engine of governance. Basically, it's the plumbament on which all of government's service or government's policy is implemented. Policy implementation coordinates development and ensures continuity in governance. And but we must begin with a candid question. Is our civil service ready to adapt to automation, artificial intelligence, and e-governance? Not just examine the question through two lenses, our current strengths and our structural gaps. We must let us acknowledge that Ghana's civil service has strong foundations on which we can build. So here are some of the things. We have institutional memory, we have experience. We have a well of accumulated knowledge, systems and procedures. And that's an asset. That's a foundational asset on which we can build. This institutional memory is strategic asset that must not be lost in a rush towards digitalization. Rather, it must guide the design of digital. So we are not saying that we are throwing away the procedures or the systems, the knowledge that we have built over the period, but then what we are basically saying is that those things should be the foundation on which everything else we build is developed. Boston Consulting Group, and he was telling me about what happens now within the BCG entity, and he said that they use AI a lot, but what they do is basically they've got an enterprise version of, and so whenever they are even giving advice now, a global consulting company and asks it for advice. So here's the thing, we should be unashamed when it comes to the use of AI. But we should also be able to develop an AI, it shouldn't just be open source AI, it should be AI that actually has been trained and built from our systems. So that institutional memory is important, and it's something that we think that actually can also drive us. So our civil service has a national presence from our Accra to the most remote district capitals, the rich is in a major advantage when it comes technological deployment across various sectors of government. So, for example, we have Ghana.gov, which is the enhances financial transparency and real-time expenditure tracking across digital payment across banks, fintechs, and government agencies, thereby facilitating financial inclusion and efficient revenue collection. Um, it's we don't give ourselves credit sometimes, but Ghana is, in terms of our financial architecture, in terms of we are able to do real-time settlement from just initiating a transaction for a Momo. It can reflect in a bank account anywhere in the country, real time. If you are five, right, which means that even in a very advanced country like the United States, their payment systems not speak to each other as seamless as we finance company. You operate a savings and loans company. There's a way to be able to touch it. Then we have GIFs. Then we have GANEPS, which is we have IPPD, we have our digital address system, we have our e-justice system, and we have immigration and e-passport system. I recently registered, um, got a passport for my son, and surprised you to know that I got my passport in less than a week. In less than a week, I received a message telling me that my passport was ready. And then the delivery guy calls me. He shows up in the office and hands me the passport. When I took it to my wife, she was really shocked because, I mean, it's all the fruits of automation, of using e-governance, be able to deploy government services and making government services accessible to the unlocks for a broader e-governance framework. And next, I'll talk about legal and institutional progress. portability says that as somebody who has given my data out to an entity, we'll call it a controller. As somebody who has given your data out to an entity, that data controller, that you have the right to be able to tell the data controller that I want my information shared with this other data controller. I want that right. I want to exercise the right to have my information transferred from this place. Right. That maybe my data is sitting with maybe GRE, but then I want to be able to access some services within ORC. I don't need to go to GRE. And if you're at ORC, you have to go and file out GRE. And then you have to take the same document and go and file at ORC again. It's the same AFS. But when we are able to consume the selling at GRE, you have to take the same set of documents to ORC again. So these are some of the services that you begin to enjoy when some of these initiatives come about. reduces leakages. Chatbots can handle routine public inquiries, free up human officers for more complex issues. These tools not only improve speed and accuracy, they also create transparency, building public trust, and reducing opportunities for manipulation. But technology alone is not enough. The true efficiency gain lies in redefining the underlying future where policy planning is not based on guesswork or just hunch or 5-year-old surveys, but real-time data insights. Artificial intelligence allows us to analyze large volumes of data quickly. So instead of reading a 700-page report, it's possible for it to revealing trends, detecting risks, and even predicting outcomes. For instance, AI can help the Ministry of Health predict where the next disease outbreak might be, just because of the data that you are consuming. Education planners can identify, and then you can then be able to go in and come up with whatever interventions that's going to work. And budget officers can stimulate different economic scenarios before certain expenditure. We look at the historical record, but then what is the opportunity cost to every decision that we make? How much more scenario planning, how many levels of it can we go? So additional value, and those things only become possible when you use tools like AI to be able to build those scenarios, because then that helps you to be able to, you can go as far as you want. You can compare, multiple scenarios. You can, what am I leaving on the table? What am I leaving behind? How many people are not going to benefit as a result of this policy? And so on and so forth. So this is the future of governance, one that is evidence-based, data-informed. They are not just well-intentioned, but also well-calculated. Next, we talk about improving service delivery for all. At the heart of governance is service to the people. I mean, that's, to borrow Doctor's word, that's sacrosanct. That's a sacred creed. That's a sacred call on their own terms, anytime, anywhere. Nobody likes long queues. Nobody likes long queues. No bureaucratic bottlenecks, just seamless, timely access to public services. That is low cost, multilingual platforms that cross remote corners of the country. We can use USSD codes to allow farmers to register for subsidies like we have in the cocoa growing areas. A mobile app can help small business renew their licenses. A voice-enabled chatbot, just a fiction. This is inclusion by design. So there's actually been a technical term for it. It's called inclusion by design. So this is inclusion by design, and will happen. It is within our grasp. Done right, digital government can bridge inequalities instead of just widening them. About the digital divide, but in Ghana, we have a chance to flip the narrative. With mobile penetration above 130% and growing digital literacy among the youth, we are well positioned to create services that are truly inclusive. By designing with the understanding And what are some of these things? So multi-language interfaces can cater to diverse populations. So we don't need interpreters. We don't also need to limit in terms of the languages that are spoken. It's interesting when you're thinking about nationwide initiatives. Your core languages in the country sometimes don't do. Those are some of the things that e-governance, automation, and AI can help address, because it doesn't matter what language you speak. People are building LMS platforms and just feeding with information, and then it can reproduce the message in the mother tongue of in those languages, but the computer can learn and can speak to them in the language that they understand. So with services can be built for basic phones, not just smartphones. Platforms can accommodate elderly persons with disability or ability should be able to access the services they are entitled to. This is not just a technical opportunity, it's a moral constitutional imperative. So it's a constitutional imperative to make sure that every Ghanaian is captured. We are not just serving those who are within, the cities who are anyone. So now let's think about some risks, ethics, and governance. As we embrace the promise of automation, artificial intelligence, and e-governance, we must also pause and reflect on the risks and ethical challenges that come with these powerful tools. Because just as digital leads, if not guided by strong governance and ethical leadership. And that is why we must really commend the building of the emerging technology bill, the development of the emerging technology bill, that as a country, we are not just waiting for these tools to come, taking I'm okay to give you the data. We're not saying don't commercialize it. You can't commercialize it, but remember, the data belongs to a data subject, and the data is a national asset because it contains information on citizens of Ghana. So Ghana has already taken a key step with the passage of the Data Protection Act 2012. And again, with the guidance of the minister, this is going to be repealed, and we're actually coming out with a more modern Data Protection Act. Of course, this was done it was passed in 2012, which technically was probably done in 2011, thereabout. And the kind of innovations that's taking place from that time till now is very different. So I'll give you an example. I mean, what we are talking about now was not even a thing back in 2012. When we are talking about AI, machine learning, algorithms, it was not a thing back then. So we have to make sure that the tools that we are using today, that the legislation we have today, the powers of the commission is one that will be able to match the efforts or the risks that exist today. So what are some of the things that you need to do? The first is that you have to operationalize compliance across all MDAs. You have to appoint data protection officers. We have to appoint data protection officers. So one is that Act 843 requires, as it stands now, that every public institution, every private institution in Ghana is required to register with the Data Protection Commission. That is the first step to even just conscientizing the entire organization that privacy matters and that the rights of data subject matters, and the environment in which they hold their data, the processing of personal data has to be done with the right standards. You need to appoint and empower a data protection officer. The government is already trained through the 1 Million Codex program. The government is trained 580 data protection officers. To give you an idea, before the minister came in, the total number of data protection officers since 2012 was 1,300. In just a period of 3 months, in fact, it was just like about a month or two, we be able to train 580 within just this period. And we need more. The simulations we've done from our side show that when we get 50,000, then compliance begins to get to a certain appreciable level. Remember that risk is always growing. Risk is always growing. As you collect data and you process it, there are always risks that are growing. So the projections we have is that we have 50,000. If we get 50,000, at least then the compliance level begins to increase. But the right number, the sweet spot that we should hit as a country is 120,000 data protection officers. So the gap even there is still a big one. So the first thing is that we need to appoint certified data protection officers, and thankfully we've trained quite a number of them under the 1 Million Codex program. We need to invest in secure infrastructure and data access protocols, and increase public awareness so that citizens understand their digital rights, and a digital state cannot function without trust. And trust is built through responsible data governance. The moment you lose that trust, it becomes very difficult for you to get it back. Then I'll talk about AI ethics and algorithms. Like I said, artificial intelligence is powerful, but it is not neutral. Artificial intelligence is powerful, but it's not neutral. And I'll give you my own personal story. So many years ago, I was involved in setting up a company called Jumo. And what we experienced after some time, so we started to build AI models actually for some time. We started, and what we began to experience was that almost all the loans were given out. So the loans we had, we were underwriting, we built an entity, and then we're providing the credit score. We're consuming data, we integrated with the telcos, and then we would consume that data, and we'll build profiles there, and we're able to advance loans. So the first product we launched was Quick Loan. So that was something I launched in 2017, 2018. Then we had Express Loan launch, and we had Ahunka Loan launch, and then we had Bosia, which was in the works with Fidelity Bank. One thing that we identified, and this just came as a surprise, was that it was almost impossible for you to give a loan to a female that was in a rural setting. It was almost impossible. The second thing was that it was almost impossible for you to give a loan to anybody who was between the ages of 30 and 18. A male was almost impossible for you to give a loan to that person. And what we didn't know was that the algorithm had decided that those kinds of customers were high risk. The system that we had built was now telling us that those kinds of customers are high risk, and so we should not give them loans. And so we had to come back and say, why does this system think that these people are high risk? And then we realized that actually it's because of the data that's been fed into the system. That this system was only experiencing social biases that already exist, cultural biases. And maybe Accra is not a perfect example, but if you go outside Accra, you go out to some of the rural centers, you realize that there are a lot of people, there's a lot of cultural things that hold people back. And for a lot of the young people too, sometimes they were engaging in things that the system thought that maybe these were high-risk customers. And so when we say artificial intelligence is not neutral, it means that the data you feed to it is what it will simply reproduce. And with time, you begin to actually, your models just become that information. And that's why we as a country have to take an active interest. Otherwise, the risk of our voice becoming just an average. There's nuance. There's differences in people. But it's very easy for a system to just average all of us into one thing. And so your personal identity, your uniqueness become lost across the maze of everyone else. Because it's looking for efficiency. It's looking for how do I capture as much within like a simple line. I'm trying to find a cluster, trying to see a single line. So I'm gathering all the information. Where does all this information converge around? That's what it's looking for. And so a lot can actually be lost within that. So if data that feeds an AI system is biased, the outcome won't be biased. For example, AI tools used in recruitment could disadvantage certain ethnic groups if trained on flawed historical information. So if people historically were not going to school within an area, and then you start to use AI tools, it would amplify that bias. It's not that it is discriminating, it's just amplifying the information you have provided it. An automated credit scoring system could reintroduce financial exclusion, which is what I spoke about. Predictive policing tools could unfairly target vulnerable people. These are not hypothetical risks, they are already happening in other countries and here as well. So civil service must ask who designs these systems. What data are we using to train those models? How are decisions audited? When a decision is made, can I go back and say, how did you come to this decision? How did you come, what foundational rules or elements inform the outcome of this decision? And who is held responsible when something goes wrong? There has to almost always be an ultimate accountable individual for everything. So even when you use these tools, there must always be, who does this, who makes the final decision. So AI must always serve the public interest, not deepen inequalities. And then I talk about trust in government systems. Perhaps the most important risk is loss of public trust. If citizens feel surveilled, misunderstood, or locked out of digital services, they will not engage, they will return to manual process or worse, disengage entirely from state institutions. To prevent this, we must prioritize inclusive design, citizen feedback loops, and clear communication. People must know how their data is used, what rights they have, and how digital platforms are making their lives better. Yeah. And then, let's look at reforms readiness agenda. We looked at the global shift, reflected on Ghana's current readiness, explored opportunities, and acknowledged the risks. Now it's time to answer a crucial question. What must we do now to ensure that Ghana's civil service not only adapts to this digital era, but thrives within it? This is the moment that calls for bold action and structured reform. So here are some 5 priority areas we can build on. So the first is we have to invest in capacity building and digital literacy. We have to empower leadership to drive change. We have to modernize legal and policy frameworks as is already done. We have to accelerate interoperability and data sharing as is being done with the data harmonization. We have to strengthen public, private, and academic partnerships. I'm going to go to vision for the future and then offer some closing remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this conversation, I invite you to look ahead. Imagine a Ghanaian civil service that is agile, not rigid. A service that is data smart, not paper bound. A workforce that is digitally confident, not left behind. A system that is citizen first, not process first. Citizen first, not process first. This is not a distant dream. It is a strategic possibility within our reach. If we act decisively, let me leave you with a vision of what the future could look like. A health officer in Garu who can instantly pull real-time vaccination data to respond to an outbreak. A cashew farmer in Kranza who applies for subsidies on a simple USSD code and gets approval within hours. A policy planner in Accra who uses predictive models to allocate resources for youth employment. A citizen in Takrady who rates public service on a digital feedback portal and actually sees change. So bringing the public to actually rate civil service or government services and bringing them closer. These are not stories of the private sector or faraway countries. They are potential stories of our public service. Service that doesn't react but anticipates. That doesn't just deliver service but creates value. But achieving this vision requires 2 things. A mindset shift, and 2, and a leadership commitment to invest in systems, skills, and standards. To paraphrase the African proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. The seeds of Ghana's digital service must be planted now, not tomorrow, not someday, not even when it's convenient, but now, while we still have the capacity to shape the transition rather than be shaped by it. To the civil servants in this room, you are not just administrators. You are architects of Ghana's future. Embrace this transformation. Champion it in your departments. Make digital readiness your personal and professional priority. To the leadership of civil service, create the space, policies, and incentives that allow innovation to thrive. Let us not fear disruption. Let us lead it. To our partners in academia, the private sector, and civil society, bring your expertise to the table. Let us co-create solutions that serve all Ghanaians, not just the digitally privileged. And to all of us, let us remember that this journey is not about machines. It's about people, about citizens who deserve faster, fairer, and more responsive government. That is the promise of technology in public service. Let us deliver on it. Thank you, and may we rise to the challenge with boldness and vision.
Thank you. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. very much, Doc. This has been heavy, this has been insightful, and we are grateful sitting and listening to you. At this point, we have just a little window to get interactive, and we would open the floor for Q&A. If you have any comments, whilst listening, whilst reflecting, and whilst engaging with your mind on the things that came forth. If you have a question that is burning, if you have a comment, suggestions, this is the moment we are getting interactive. So you can put up your hand, the microphones will come through the alleys, and you'll be attended to. So we begin with this session. Yes, so there is a hand up, one here, one over there. We have two hands, so let's pick 5 for this session, and we should be fine. We have a third one, a fourth, and a fifth. Thank you very much. So please, the microphone should come here. This was the first hand that went up. Or I should give you this.
Right, thank you. My name is John Sulemana. I believe one of the issues that impact the adoption of AI has to do with data, the quality, the quantity, and probably the relevance. I don't know, what do we have in place as a country so that we are sure that the data we are harvesting will stand the test of these factors, so that we are double sure that in our adoption of AI, the kind of results that we get will really lead into taking positive and precise decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we take all questions and begin to? We take 3 first. So the second hand that went up.
My name is Burhan Mohammed, a student of St. Thomas Aquinas Senior High School. My question is talking about the role of the next future leaders, that the young ones coming. Me per se, I'm a beginner in programming, an AI explorer, and I'm into robotics. But what role are we playing in the future of Ghana? It seems always the adults are given the opportunities, but we the younger ones, what role are we going to play? Thank you.
There's a third hand here, Mr. Elliot Lamte. Here in green. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the lecture. I wanted to find out the explanation you gave about artificial intelligence is powerful but not neutral, and you explained well by letting us know that it is based on information fed in. But I wanted to know, what threat does super artificial intelligence have to the development of these AI initiatives going forward? Because now we can see that super artificial intelligence is coming up, and it is almost becoming a threat to the whole AI initiative. I wanted to know.
Thank you. So we take.
Thank you very much for those questions. I think the first question, am I in the right place? Yeah, I can stay. I have to go up. Thank you. So the first question was about the data. There was a question about the quality, quantity, and relevance of the data. I think we spoke about 2 things that are happening at the policy level. One is, maybe let me take it back and for the benefit of everyone in the room. AI, of course, feeds off data, tons of data. You know, you write a rule, and then you feed the data and say, learn from this data. And with time, it comes to understand how you would usually think. And so this is dependent on the kind of information you feed it. So that's the premise actually for the question. What government is doing is twofold. One is that we are developing the data harmonization bill, which is going to see the integration of all the public digital infrastructure. What I'm saying is that wherever data was held in silos, where you had data containers basically being held across without them speaking to each other, right now, all of that are going to pass through a single point. So already, when you are a technologist or when you are building on those systems, you have a single point to consume that data. The other side of it is that there's also the play of the private digital infrastructure. What is value being created within the public digital infrastructure? The private actors will find value in also connecting through these portals. And because they've now connected, the data that also exists, that's also generated within the public space, will also be consumed through that portal. And so if you're integrating, you can basically integrate through one site to be able to access data basically from across wherever the data containers are. And so things about the data quality will be easier for you to manage. You will never know the true quality of the data until you try to use it. And so the first thing is, how do we even access the data so that we even know what is there? You know, so again, I'll give you another example of my previous life. When we started to do credit scoring on telco data, we actually, because of the new use of that data, we actually helped them to do some data cleaning even on their site, because there was now new use for some of the data. And so the minister has always talked about like the registration, the need for re-registration, so things like KYC. Something that truly happened, when we wanted to reward the 1 million quick loan customer, the data we had was different. It actually was supposed to be a female, but the person that was in that data ended up being a different person. And so it's only when you begin to really consume that data that you get to know the true value, what is there. So let's not be afraid to say we are going to embrace it. Let's embrace it, because that is part of the process of learning. And once we have that, the rest of it will fall into place. And then there was a question from my younger brother, who is a student, asking about all the things, all the initiatives that are being developed, and that sometimes it appears as if young people are being left out of the equation. So under the guidance of the minister, one of the initiatives that we are going to see play out is the youth in, so we would see a redevelopment of even the curricula within the school system, so that we begin to start training young people on AI and some of these emerging technologies. In a lot of countries, AI is actually a core. Data science, programming, all of those things are core skills that people develop, because that's like a language. It's like how you learn how to speak English. That's how, and imagine a world where we couldn't really communicate and we all spoke our different languages, and then there was no common universal language on which we spoke from. And so one of the things that is actually instructed is that we are going to develop, we're working with the universities to be able to actually introduce some of these emerging technologies, so that you are learning those skills right from now. But even on top of that, there are a number of initiatives that are actually ongoing. There are competitions, there's robotics classes, there are different things that I think that if you have an interest in this space, it's something that you should begin to participate in. I know that some Ghanaians were in, was it in Geneva or recently, that went to win an award on robotics. People are building AI models. I know some of these things tend to be based on the school that you go to, but if it's being done somewhere, you should also participate in it. Maybe you should tell your teachers that, look, there's this thing that is happening and we also want to take part in it. I went to a sister seminary, so I went to St. Francis Xavier Minor Seminary. So I'm also a seminarian. So at least we have something. So yeah, it's something that I would just say that we should pay attention to. The next question was about the rise of super platforms, super artificial intelligence, and I think your question is actually about singularity. So there's a common threat within the AI community that we could get to a point where AI develops so much intelligence that it begins to think that it doesn't need, its creators, basically. And, this has been a concern. This has been something that's been thought through. And it's something that was actually, I've forgotten the name, but one of the leading physicists was the one who gave the example of whenever you have a higher intelligence meet a lower intelligence community, the higher intelligence tends to act very unfairly towards the lower intelligence. Think about the rise of kingdoms. When a kingdom was, really powerful, it tended to not allow, the smaller kingdom to rule it, or allow the smaller kingdom to continue to exist. So in the same way, if we look at things like AI, we could get to a point where some of these super intelligence become so powerful that they may begin to do things that we don't instruct. So may do things that is against the welfare. But I can assure you that there are a number of AI ethics governance boards across the world. So it's a major risk that is being taken into consideration, and that there are governance boards that are there to make sure that at all times there's a kill switch, that at all times there is a system to be able to shut the whole thing down. Remember, AI consumes a lot of energy, consumes a lot of power. The power that was used to train GPT-3 is equivalent to the power that we generate from Makosombo Dam. Just to give you an idea of how much power that is consumed within that system. And so for you to even consume that kind of, for AI to be able to consume that amount of data and to be able to get to the great systems, it's something that theoretically can work, but operationally, for you to be able to get into a national grid, to build that capacity, build that processing power, be able to have the maybe robotics consume something that would actually be able to get up and go and then maybe build new bridges and add to the grid systems and all of those things, it's still going to take a long while. But we have to believe in the human ingenuity. There's no way we are going to sit back every single time and just watch this thing come in and destroy us. So understand the concern there, but this is something that is being thought through, and it's something that's being worked on. So thank you very much.
I think we should stay here. Okay. So please, we have the next two the final two. The first set of 5, we are dealt with 3, so the final 2 should own up so that you ask your questions. We can be quick about this. Okay, let's go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon, sorry. My question is, with the environmental struggles Ghana faces, particularly with Galamsey, and considering the huge strains AI has with the environment, how prepared are we to balance technology with protecting our ecosystems? Because even with Galamsey, we are really suffering to curb this issue. And so how much more are we prepared to balance AI's advantages with protecting our ecosystems?
Thank you very much. The next hand.
Thank you. The first person who asked the question, the third, torn apart my question. But I have small portion left, which I would like to ask. In the first place, I want to commend my MP. I'm now a proud person coming from his constituency. Honorable Samuel Jata George. Thank you so much. All right, so I also want to find out that, as we all say, something artificial, meaning literally, it's something that original exists. So I want to find out if someone says AI sometimes hallucinates, should we believe? And if we should believe, how come we want to depend on it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The two questions are actually somewhat related, so thanks very much. So the first one is a question about Galamsey. Actually, AI will help us fight Galamsey. AI will help us fight Galamsey. Just like how AI can help us fight deforestation, AI can help us find disease, like places where there's infestation of a kind of disease within the crop yield. AI has a lot of uses. So I'll give you a case. We are able to take pictorial views on every corner of the earth as it stands now. We are able to take pictorial views to the last meter square, basically every part of the earth today, using satellite technology, right? If you have that information, you know how typically, and we've been capturing this information for more than 50 years. We know exactly how this place looks like. We know the greenery. We know how during this season, maybe the crops are beginning to blossom. There are things that are happening. It's able to tell how much greenery should exist, how much brown should exist, and so on and so forth. AI will be able to help you be able to identify. And then the other part of it is like, you're also able to measure, for example, if you throw a beam from a satellite to the ground, you're able to measure whether that ground has been dug deeper or not, right? Because you're throwing a beam and you're looking at how quickly it hits back or in what angle it goes through. So if there was a gap, a hole that was dug here, which did not exist, you should be able to build a model to say, go out there and check and see what are some of the structural changes that have happened within this environment over the last maybe couple of weeks. So when it comes to AI, the application, as long as you have the right data, and that data is available. The same way, there's actually a company called Mino Health, and what they do, it's a local Ghanaian company, and what they do is that they're actually able to predict crop yield using AI. And what do? They take images of the crops. They know how many, within a hectare, how much produce you'll be able to get if the crops behaved a certain way. And you remember, this is technology. It can calculate to the decimal, it can calculate to any kind of level, and be able to say, okay, given this amount of rainfall that is falling, and then the way these crops are looking, what is the actual harvest? What will harvest look like? So the technology already exists. I'm using this as an auxiliary point to explain that in terms of AI, the relationship between AI and then Galamsey, it's not that one is after the other. In any case, it actually just accelerates the process for us. It helps us to be able to tell that, okay, Galamsey is happening in this particular forest, and you don't need to hire people to get up and go there, go around, and for you to be able to detect it. You can sit at a central place and be able to actually map it out and be able to point out exactly where, the exact location that this is taking place. Are we convinced? Yes. Thank you. The next point is about AI hallucinations. And like I said, AI is not neutral. When we say AI hallucinations, it simply means that AI is giving you wrong information. But it's giving you wrong information because that's the information you fed it. So if you give it wrong information, it will give you what you gave it. If your data that you train the models on, if the data is flawed, if the data contains biases, it will just take it and then reproduce it to you. So AI hallucination is not actually something, it's not, it's you, and that's why I spoke about accountable person. So if you ask AI to do something for you, it doesn't mean that you've outsourced that responsibility to AI. There has to be a person trained who will be able to access that information and analyze that information to be sure that the information that is being produced is one that actually resonates with what the body of knowledge is. So when you see that there's a big divergence, because that's actually a war that can be fought at some point. Somebody can just decide to flood your system with very wrong information so that it misleads everybody. And so we need people to be able to make those judgments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's applaud louder. At this point, I know there are more hands and more questions that need to be asked, but please, we are far behind time because other events are waiting us in this very auditorium. So kindly catch Doc here. When you are done, if you have more questions, he would engage and then he will help all of us. Thank you very much. I hope we are all good with this. Thank you very much. The years didn't come, but I'm sure we are all fine. Yes, thank you very much. So at this point, we will have to hear from our chair, his closing remarks. At the beginning of my introduction, I said that there is no better steward to sit in today's conversation like him. He mentioned he has other competing engagements, but we could all see that he sat through, listened, engaged, and he's been with us all through and through. Honorable Minister, we welcome you to give us your remarks and tell us what you have for us after all of these engagements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very true. I'd said that I had other engagements I had to leave, and I have a meeting with all the chief executives of all my 11 agencies at 12 o'clock. And so at about 11:45, I spoke to Doc and said, Doc, I have to leave. He said, oh, can you give us a few minutes and then you can leave. Maybe we'll go by the stadium for another event that's going on there. And then after that, then he said, well, maybe the stadium one is up to Thursday. So I said, okay, I'll give a few minutes. How soon will and all that? And he says it will soon end. Then he turns to me and says, you know, whenever you're ready to go, you can go. Now, when your lecturer tells you in a class, whenever you want to go, go. So I sat there. You know, my lecturer said to me, when you want to go, go. You know, so yeah, I've sat there till the end. Doc, I hope I've passed. But I think that it's been a very good session. And look, Arnold did a fantastic job of laying out what it is. And I think that he's laid out and giving you enough food for thought. The fact that artificial intelligence cannot be wished away. The fourth industrial revolution cannot be changed. At my vetting, I was clear when I've met Parliament. I said that if I got the nod, the leadership I would bring to the ministry was to make Ghana not a participant, but an active leader on the continent in AI deployment. And it is a task we've set ourselves because as a country, many times we fail to realize the special place we hold on this continent. That we've always been trailblazers from the days of our founding father, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And that a lot of Africa's liberation is on the back of Ghana's own movement. And that you need to position Ghana for Africa not to suffer data colonization. And that's why I'm excited that the civil service of Ghana, and I don't think there's any other civil service on the continent that's actually thinking in the direction that you're thinking. Because if you understand and appreciate where we sit, 1 in every 4 human beings in the next 5 years, not far away, next 5 years, many of you will not have retired yet, well, some may have, but 1 in every 4 human beings is going to be African. That tells you the number of people on the continent. And when you look at that demographic, 68% are going to be people under the age of 35. Very young demographic, 1.5 billion people on the continent. And why I'm giving you all of this is because that's the demographic that really is online. That's leaving digital footprints, creating data assets. Now, at the Paris AI Summit, I said something to the US Undersecretary of State. I said to him, I had a meeting with the State Department and he led the team, and I said to him, America may think that they are self-sufficient in their systems and artificial intelligence deployments, but they should wait. It's the same way President Mahama said to them that if they didn't, in his first term, that if the West did not focus on fighting Ebola was going to come and visit them. And Ebola ended up visiting them in the West. I said to them, today, the US prides itself on having AI tools for homeland security. Retina scan, iris scans, biometrics. But those tools are 99.8% effective on whites or people of white backgrounds. When it comes to black men, it's only 48% accurate. Not because black men are difficult to read, but the AI tools don't have enough faces of black people in the database to be able to generate the right recognition that is needed. And so, and you can go into many sectors, agriculture, all those sectors. And so the big AI companies are beginning to need and require African data sets. If Africa doesn't prepare itself, you're going to have data colonization. The next layer of colonization, first you had the slave trade, then you had economic colonization. The next colonization is on data. Ask yourself why our friends in the East donated to the African Union a beautiful building. And every day between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., they open the back channel to transfer data from that building of every conversation African presidents had to a server sitting somewhere. It's because data is power. And as Arnold said, to whom much data is given, there's much responsibility that's required. And that's why we're saying, as we begin to push you as ministries to deploy AI and deal with big data, you need to have properly trained data protection officers in your ministry and cybersecurity officers in there. So like I said, we're going to the Eastern region for our retreat this weekend with focal persons and ministers. When we come back, your focal persons are going to begin to write to you as chief directors with memos in implementing the roadmap. And bear in mind, you have a responsibility to help your ministers. You are the bureaucrats. You lead the technical part of the ministry. The ministers, we just lead the political policy aspect. But we need you to help us put in place the frameworks, and you need to build the institutions. And for your information, the president says that whatever use cases are generated in the Eastern region over the weekend are going to form KPIs for the ministers in 2026. The president is not joking about this. Don't forget, I keep saying that when we go to cabinet, I laugh because there are 4 communication ministers there. You have me, you have Omani Boama, you have Haruna Idrisu, and you have John Mahama. All former communication ministers. The president is former minister for communication, so he appreciates and understands it, and he's not joking with it. And so, please be minded that the same way he's going to be looking at ministers, I'm sure from his office, a letter will come to you, Doc, saying that they want to see implementation, because we've done the mapping now of all the ministries. We know the maturity of every ministry, and we're going to be tracking with bi-monthly meetings to see implementation. So if you're a chief director and you begin to lag, you would begin to getting those green letters can cause running stomach. So be very minded that we would want to see this adoption. And like I said in my opening remarks, this should not just be ceremonial. It shouldn't just be ticking a box. We must see real action such that a year from now, when you meet again to celebrate the Civil Service Week, will be talking about the adoption and inclusion of artificial intelligence in many of your ministries. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's do it again and again and again and again and again. Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, so okay. So at this point, we would want to move the vote of thanks to close this session. But before we do that, we want to quickly acknowledge the presence of the principal of the Government Secretariat School and then the student of the Ghana Secretariat School. Government Secretariat School. I hope I'm correct. Okay, so we acknowledge you. Madam Wilhelmina Asamoah is the Chief Director of the Ministry of Sports, and she is the chairperson for this year's Civil Service Week. We would want to call her to move the vote of thanks so that we close for today.
Our chairperson just left us, but we still thank him very much for being present and chairing this very important discourse. Chairperson of the Public Services Commission and the Vice Chairperson, Head of Civil Service, our keynote speaker, thank you very much. Our head of various public service institutions, colleague chief directors, and our selfless civil servants. A very good afternoon to you all. And our media professionals, Closac Bank, ladies and gentlemen. As we draw the curtain on what has been a truly insightful and thought-provoking public lecture, it is my honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. First and foremost, we give all thanks and glory to the Almighty God, whose grace has made today's event successful. Without his guidance, strength, and favor, none of this would have been possible. A very special appreciation goes to the Honorable Minister of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation for gracing this event with his presence and his continued leadership in advancing Ghana's digital transformation agenda. His commitment to leveraging technology for national development remains a critical pillar in our collective reform efforts. To the members of the Public Services Commission and heads of institutions, we are grateful for your presence, your steadfast support, strategic guidance, and collaboration in strengthening the capacity and relevance of the civil service. We express our deepest appreciation to our distinguished speaker for the rich and insightful presentation on the theme, Adapting to Automation, Artificial Intelligence, and E-Governance, the Civil Service in Contemporary Ghana. Thank you very much, Doc. Your insights have not only shed light on the technological shift redefining governance globally, but have also challenged us to reflect on our institutional readiness to embrace the future. You have inspired us to act innovatively and lead with integrity in this digital age. To our invited guests and stakeholders, your presence here today, both in person and online, speak volumes about your continued commitment to the transformation of the civil service and to national development at large. Thank you for engaging with us, for your thoughtful contributions, and for your unwavering support. To our hard-working civil servants, Today reaffirms that we are not mere custodians of bureaucracy, but stewards of national development, agents of policy continuity, and champions of institutional reform. May the knowledge and inspiration gained today spur us all to embrace innovation, pursue excellence, and uphold the sacred trust reposed in us by the people of Ghana. We also acknowledge, of course, the effortless planning committee, the teams, and everyone who has worked behind the scenes to make this event a resounding success. May your professionalism and dedication be rewarded today and also in heaven one day. Once again, We say a heartfelt thank you to you, to every one of you who made this afternoon a success. Thank you all, and God richly bless you, and have a good afternoon. And please don't leave. The finals for the quiz follows immediately after this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I want to quickly pick a few announcements, then we would be out of here, but then we will stay back again for the quiz. Just like the chairperson said, this afternoon, right after this session, we have the finals of the interministerial quiz, so let's stay back and engage and see what happens here. Also, tomorrow morning, we'll be having a policy dialogue at 10 a.m. in this very auditorium. Let us make it a point and be here to be a part of it. Also, there will be the cooking competition at the stadium where the fair is happening. So please let us take note and participate accordingly. We would also mention a few thank you to our sponsors who have supported us throughout this period, and they continue to do, and we hope that they will do next year and the next and the next and the next. We want to say thank you to Promasidor Ghana. We want to also say thank you to Verna Water, to Volta River Authority, to Petroleum Commission, to BOST, to CLOCSAG, to GOIL, GNPC, National Sports Authority, Soccer Local, and the National Petroleum Authority. We say a big thank you for your continued support. We are very grateful. On this note, we would want to call on Mr. Elliot Lamptey to close us with a prayer.
Thank you, Yvonne. Head of Service, Madam Chair, Chief Directors, colleagues, civil servants, shall we please be on our feet? Let's say a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your will be done in our nation, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong as we seek to adapt automation, artificial intelligence, and e-governance in our governance system to improve service delivery. We pray for wisdom, the wisdom from your word, the leading of your spirit, to do the things that are morally right, and to uplift our nation. As we leave here, we ask for your grace and mercy to go with us and grant us a blessed day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Once again, thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful event today. So, close up band, take us home.